Hola, Internet amigos. Yes, we are away. Today's date is the 12th of January, 2025. It's 4:20 p.m. I hope, dear friends over there in Los Angeles, California, and in that area up there in Santa Barbara, I hope you are all okay. And I hope in the future you will be doing regular yearly burning off rather than waiting for the 5 to 7 year superstorm to hit. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk Preston, what's his face? Preston Stewart. This is a military officer who's in artillery, and he's going to tell us all about how Putin was paying, and I believe this 100%, they were paying $200,000 for the Taliban to kill American soldiers. Now, this has been around a while. I have no doubt it's true. And the US is giving it straight back to Russia right now via Ukraine. These are the games they all play, and they're using the lives of ordinary people in the great game. But one of the things we're going to do is by taking at face value what Preston Stewart has to say, and the evidence is very strong. The evidence is very strong. Without question, of course they were doing it. They wanted to encourage the Taliban to obviously boot the US out of Eurasia. So this all ties in with what? The multipolar world order and that giant Eurasian trading bloc we all know about. Again, look at this article. There's Bibi and Vlad, and there's the Israeli press spilling the beans saying, hey, Iran is set to join a Eurasian trading bloc that Israel is already will be involved in later as well. Now, you would think Whitney Webb and all the geniuses online would be pushing. I mean, it's just in my Google alerts. I don't know whether it was Google alerts or someone sent that article to me, amongst the 1,000 other articles we've had since 2018 on about Putin. But I don't know what to say to get the visceral response out of you that these people are lying and lying blatantly, and they know they're lying and they don't care because they work. Or do they work for someone? I don't know. I have no idea who they work for. I have no idea if they work for someone. I don't know. I just know they are lying. That's all you have to say. And there are consequences to lying. There's consequences for you, your life, your kids, and there will be consequences for them. 100%. Anyway, I'll be doing a daily video. These videos are nothing to make. I can do one a day. So far, you remember all the problems I had with sound? Well, that suddenly stopped when I showed on video how they would change my VPN server, and suddenly I would start getting, the microphone would start to crackle. It's been perfect, running perfectly, but, they're around, and I just keep gathering evidence. As someone said, Brendon, just keep gathering evidence, keep gathering, screenshotting, making complaints, keep the emails, and wait for it. Your day will come on this matter. Your day will come. So let's, without further ado, go to Preston Stewart, a U.S. Army officer who was I believe he was in artillery. I think he handled HIMARS or something in his day. Let's now watch some extracts of this 17-minute video. Then we're going to draw some conclusions. Remember how I always tell you that if 2 + 2 = 4, then 4 + 4 must equal 8, and so on. So if we accept that this is true, and you're free, and by the way, you're free to disagree. You're free to disagree with me. Just disagree intelligently. Don't come on my Patreon and just start blathering garbage. When I take 15, 20 minutes to gather a heap of links and calmly explain to you why you're wrong, and all I get back is "you're wrong" in quotation marks, you're deleted. You're gone. There's nothing to argue. Anyway, Russia paid to have US soldiers killed.
$200,000. That's how much Russia paid the Taliban for each American soldier that they killed. In today's video, we're diving into a new report that calls out the Russian officers by name who ran this program, how and why they financed these attacks, and maybe most importantly, why it's been known for years, but both the Trump and Biden administration essentially just sat on it. Now, all of this is coming from a new investigation just released by The Insider on January 8th, titled $200,000 for Every American Killed, how the GRU paid the Taliban for terrorist attacks. And of course, that article will be linked in the description below if you want to read it in its entirety. Now, starting out, I thought it was worth introducing you to a couple of the organizations and key figures throughout this story. Starting on the Russian side, we have the GRU, or Russian Military Intelligence Directorate. It's the intelligence branch of the Russian military, kind of like our DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, if you had to make a one-to-one comparison. We then have the head of the terrorist financing program, Lieutenant General Ivan Kosenyenko, who is also deputy commander of the GRU Unit 29155. which is a mouthful, but pretty rough organization start to finish. This is the organization responsible for conducting foreign assassinations on Russia's behalf. In fact, for more of a deep dive into this group, Chris Cappy, Task and Purpose, did a great video not too long ago. I'll link that in the description below as well. We then have the GRU's main liaison with the Taliban, Colonel Alexei Arkhipov, aka Alexei Titov, who's been referred to unofficially as one of Russia's special envoys to Afghanistan. Very bureaucratic, very plain language for the guy facilitating payments to the Taliban for the death of American warfighters. Turning over to the middleman, kind of the key player in all of this, we have a smuggler from Kunduz named Rahmatullah Azizi, as well as his extended family and network that stretched from Moscow in Russia to Helmand province in south.
So take note, details. Yeah, amazing. Got all these photographs all the way into the deep, dark world of Russian military intelligence, which is a lot different to DIA. They're very different. They also run what you would call civilian-type agents. But,
Western Afghanistan. And then, of course, we have the Taliban, the current leaders of Afghanistan. And during the time of this operation, from 2015 to 2019, the Taliban were an insurgent group targeting the United States, Afghan, and coalition partners all across the country. But before diving into why Russia set up this program, a quick thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Lumen.
Well, that's enough of that. We don't need to see anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, it goes into intricate detail for 17 to 18 minutes. I don't doubt the evidence put before here. The US knows they're backdoored into everything. Now, let's ask the question. You just saw Hamas and Hezbollah especially get decimated. So many people contacted me laughing at me saying it's all over for Israel, it's all over. And you've seen me triple down, quadruple down, quintuple it down. No, it's all over for Hamas and Hezbollah. You will, of course, remember the infamous Israeli press articles detailing how people were outing Netanyahu as saying we have to fund Hamas. They created Hamas from the beginning, and they were running the funds through Doha, Qatar. Now, Doha is where? In Qatar. Qatar is where? It's right next door to the largest U.S. military base in the world, but no one can find the Hamas terrorists. They're also over in five-star hotels in good old Turkey, another NATO member that actually builds F-35 fighter engines. Well, what do you know? And they're over there in Egypt, which is kept alive by US money. Now, they're going to go on and on and on about all this money, transferring names, dates, places, all of these details. But apparently no one can ask this simple question, which I've asked many times, which is Hezbollah is $1 billion a year business. More. It employs people, it builds hospitals, it runs schools. It employs tens of thousands of people and all the weaponry it has, some of which is quite sophisticated. But apparently, the money, how do they get the money? Nobody knows. It's all a big mystery. Maybe they use Bitcoin. Oh my gosh. Again, the same City of London, East India Trading Company, banks in Frankfurt and Switzerland are funding the whole damn show. I was sitting over there in Iran, watching them run backwards and forwards to Switzerland for their Swiss bank accounts, and this whole artificial Rothschild City of London entity called Islamic Terror. Again, why? To lock us all down. Of course, for local geopolitical regions in the Middle East, to maintain the Israeli state, because it's so diverse. Just keeping the Israeli population together is hard enough. They'll at each other like cats and dogs constantly. So they've got to have the threat of war. And then, of course, we have the larger area of how do they lock us all down. So they had the Cold War to maintain the system and build the multipolar world order, to maintain an economic stimulus till they can develop with taxpayer funding the military industrial complex, which would then build the machines that would kill and put us in our smart city gulags the whole time, all under the original DARPA strategic Hamlet system they invented in Vietnam. So we see this system, which isn't really American, it's international. It's just an internationalist Trotskyite movement out of the Frankfurt School boys, that Jewish philosophy that they talked about, which the German existentialist good, or German Jewish existentialist good, well, it's debatable whether he's Jewish or considers himself Jewish, Heinz Kissinger. You see that system at work, building the Islamic Terror network, because believe me, as a child I was born in 1970 and I grew up in the age of, waiting for nuclear war. Sorry, I've just wiped rosehip oil into my eyes, which stings, but one must look one's best for the audience. Can't afford my facelift in Cancun. But, during the Cold War, there is no way you could have instituted these control mechanisms we now take for granted. We've got our tracking devices listening to us. We all know about it and we all accept it. We put every thought and feeling, where we're going, what we're doing. We all know that they track and trace us. It doesn't matter. We keep using it. And of course, the things that go on at border control, cameras are everywhere. They're right outside my door. Never would we have accepted this in a million years growing up in the 1970s and 80s due to the Soviet communist threat. Never in a billion years would the United States impinge on individual rights like we have right now. But as Colonel Fletcher Prouty said in 1973, they knew, number one, they would wind down the Cold War and introduce Islamic Terror, and they would bring in banking, credit cards, and so on and so forth. They already knew these things were decades in advance, and that 1970s was a pivotal period. 1973 Yom Kippur War, the advent of Holocaust narratives, the rise of Steven Spielberg, where he got his big break doing Holocaust narratives, and that whole Binational Industrial Research and Development Foundation. I'll be talking to the Cat Diva from Tennessee on Wednesday. And that whole system was really introduced with Kissinger and Associates, détente with the Soviet Union and Red China. That whole system we see today at its cumulative peak point was begun through that 1970 period. And so they just wound us up into Islamic Terror, and apparently we all went along with it. And we thought if we just shared links and raged online and sold coffee mugs and T-shirts, it would all be fixed. Clearly not. And here we sit. So we've just seen an admission that they're tracking and tracing absolutely everything, but we're still wondering, the Taliban, Pakistan, they were based in Pakistan in the madrasas funded by Saudis, and $7 billion was handed to the Pakistani government. And they all knew through the Chelsea Manning releases the cables that they all knew that they were then funding the Taliban to kill soldiers. So I'm not sure where the real big story begins and ends. But when we look at the former Pakistani president, Imran Khan, if you don't know who that is, if you're an Australian, an Englishman or woman, or if you're from into cricket, the great game, then you will know exactly who Imran Khan is. He was huge in the 70s and 80s in cricket, and all the women would swoon whenever like my mother would run in to watch him bowl or bat, much to my father's amusement. And Imran Khan, of course, was running to be president. He had done deals with, of course, the City of London, and he wanted to, hating the US as he does, he was, of course, married to Jemima Goldsmith. Jemima Goldsmith is the daughter of Jimmy Goldsmith, good old Rothschild's other right hand. And Jimmy Goldsmith, of course, the other lady, Princess Diana, generally believed to be his daughter as well. That's Jemima Goldsmith's half-sister. Okay, do you see? Jemima Goldsmith, married to Imran Khan, of course. Imran was deep in on the multipolar world order. And they were making sure they killed as many US soldiers as possible to get them out of Eurasia, out of the Middle East. That was the plan. Bring Trump in, withdraw everyone after Obama. First, we get the village idiot, George W. Bush. Then we got his brother, Obama, who's obviously sitting down, having comfortable chats with good old Donald J. Trump. And Trump's job was to withdraw back. It was due to Mattis and the Wasp, Skull and Bones boys, and good old Mike Pompeo, who stopped all that cold and ended the multipolar world order. And the fallout is what we see today in Ukraine. The fallout is what we see today with the cleansing of Gaza, the end of Hamas and the end of Hezbollah. Soon, when they're ready and they've got the Gazans heading out into the Sinai after putting pressure on Egypt, the Houthis will suddenly get wiped out and voila, the job is done. US elites have told Bibi, clean up your Islamic Terror network, and then the US will shift into the Middle East, put some giant bases in Syria and maybe even within the state of Israel itself. And the state of Israel will be a literal open protectorate of the United States. It will not be a sovereign country. It will be an open, secular protectorate of the United States, through which power will be wielded directly into the Middle East. And there will be no more wars in that country ever again. Hopefully some apologies. Maybe. A lot of rebuilding. A lot of rebuilding. Somebody's got to rule, boys and girls. Somebody's going to have to rule. Peace doesn't just break out until this system is completely dismantled. And they are absolutely going to dismantle the old City of London system. It's being dismantled as we speak. Central bank digital currency in Washington, D.C., that's where it's all going to be operated for. That's what's happening. Now, is it good or a bad thing? I don't know. That will be up to the American people, won't it? and the American managerial class. The big worry is automation of systems, and we see, as we saw recently in South Korea with the coup, what happened? It was debatable whether this martial law was good, but the bottom line was the military refused to enforce it. The military went in and everyone was told to go away, and they basically just walked straight through the ranks of the military. No one was shot. The military just went, oh, well, not much we can do about it. So you see how that works? The dictator or the strong man issues the orders, martial law. Now the military must enforce martial law. One problem. South Korean military refused to do it and just stood there and said, sorry, you can't come inside into the parliament building, and all the South Korean parliamentarians just walked straight through and went inside. Do you see now? Imagine if all the systems were automated. Now imagine if it's automated. We got automated and semi-autonomous killbots. Now you begin to understand how AI and these automated systems are frightening, and we've got to put a stop on them immediately. I want human beings in the system. F your AI. It's going to be good for some things, but it is not going to be good for other things. That's the debate we need to have. We need a debate. We don't want to talk about Kim Kardashian's ass size. We need a debate on real issues that matter, not whether men think they're women or men with beards want to go to the ladies' toilets. But that's the distraction, isn't it? Well, that system is being wound up. But how that ends up, good or bad, or mostly good and a little bit bad or whatever, or complete terror and horror, will be up to the American people. And all we can do is cheerlead. We see now they can track and trace everything. Watch the whole 17 minutes yourself. And as we've said over and over, this Islamic Terror network's going to be cleaned up. And is Donald Trump going to usher in a new golden age with the people behind him? Will he, number one, get rid of Chabad Lubavitch, Jared Kushner, and the whole rest of them? Will they be gotten rid of? Will Arnold Milchan be staying in London? He is. He's left America. Now he lives in London. Will Whitney Webb be moving to London? I'll say she will be, because her time is not going to be very nice to her. Scott Bennett's in the grave. Scott Ritter's probably next. Ryan Dawson's a village idiot rat for the CIA and the FBI, so don't worry about it. He'll be fine. But a few people are going to be dropping dead, more than you know. So Whitney, the word on the street is you need to run to London and get your apartment in London as fast as you can. Ladies and gentlemen, we really have to start getting viscerally angry at what's going on now. We're going to organise a conference. Lee and others will be flying down soon, and we're going to sit down, have a powwow, make a few videos down around here, meet some people, and then we're going to try and get some people together. Of course, it will be reasonably small, but it's going to be a start, and people can register their interest. What else is there to say? God willing, it's going to be slow and incremental. You're going to see a change in attitude and a change in the narratives. And there's going to be less dog whistles and more public policy. Jewish communities must be protected, not from Nazis, but from other Jews playing Nazis. And I'd say that one's pretty much wrapped up. That one's wrapped up. But we've got to stop any automated systems coming on board. I hope this has made sense to you. And I hope over time we can just incrementally, tiny, millimeter by millimeter, we only have to change one person a month, and we can begin to get that message out. 2025 is going to be, no, I don't even want to say crazy. I think it's going to be a very positive year overall, with obvious exceptions in certain places in the world. But I want you to have a think about all those spicy pumpkin lattes, all the crying, and we were doing concrete things, and we got nothing but setups with Nazis and white nationalist clowns. And I know intelligent white nationalists and national socialists. You know, as a friend from Hungary said, Brendon, I am a national socialist and student of Julie Sivola and sacred tradition. I am not a Hitler groupie. I don't mind people like that who are intelligent, but morons running around with swastikas on their foreheads are clearly degenerate scum, and Hitler would have put you in a camp immediately as a child of you-know-who, and that's exactly what you are. They run them all. They run all the clown show. But the United States is not about race. There's no place for race in America. There's freedom. So if you want to live as a white nationalist in Idaho, and you want to live amongst your own, I will fight and die to protect your right to do that, and vice versa. What will bind us all is our desire to be free and to live freely with our consenting adult friends and family, without putting any pressure on anyone. If people want to stay together in a group, they stay together in a group, and I will defend your right to do that, whatever that's based on, whether I agree with it or not. And that is what will bind us, maintaining each other's freedom. A freedom to be a Wahhabist, a freedom to be a liberal, blue-haired, friggin' woke, whatever. That's it, but no one impinging on anyone else's rights. That is what will bind us together. And a lot of this crazy madness we see once the parasite is got rid of, these $2,000 Armani suited pieces of garbage you think they're born to rule. Once we get rid of this parasite, I promise you, everything will settle down. There'll just be synagogues and mosques over there and a church over there and a Buddhist temple over there, and everyone will just be minding their own business, bonded through freedom. As we move forward into a new golden age, Bible prophecy aside. I don't listen to Bible prophecy anymore. I live in the moment. The Bible is alive, in my opinion, and I operate through the promptings of the Holy Spirit. Wisdom, she sits by the gates. I'm operating as the eternal feminine leads me forward. And my feeling is one of positive with some ups and downs at times. Bible prophecy will unfold in God's good time or not unfold. God is not a rigid determinist. No one knows the hour or the day, not even the sun. So quit it. It's time you got positive. Maybe this is the test. We need to negotiate with God, argue with God, be a friend of God, co-create with God, and start having adult relationships with the Godhead. Co-create with the Godhead. There is no greater thing than to be a friend of God and that creative life force. No greater thing that we can ever do. We need new popular culture. We need new systems, or maybe just the old system. And above all, we need to raise the vibrational level of fellow human beings from that of dogs happy to poo, pee, eat, and have sex to something above the waistline where we aim for higher things, beauty, art, and all the rest. We can do that. All right, all this death metal, all this pop culture is not organic. It's totally artificial, funded through that foundation system of funding. Pop culture, it's not an accident. It's not organic. It's not a natural. It is a deliberate Tavistock-style psychological mind F. That's what it's just. So they can say, see what happens with freedom? You become degenerate and crazy. We need the strong man, or the strong woman. We need a strong, centralized government. And you just be a passive child, and we'll pat you on the head on the commons, and we will look after you with a king and a queen or whatever oligarchical system they put in place. That is now over. The Trump administration will be dismantling it. The only thing I can tell you is the only way it's going to be good or better than bad is with an engaged citizenry in the United States. If we free America, we free the world. Ladies and gentlemen, have a pleasant Sunday afternoon. May your skies be clear, and may you find comfort in places like Los Angeles, Gaza, and wherever else. And peace is going to reign. How long? I don't know. But let's just give it a go anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with the great F. Scott Fitzgerald and Bill Cooper. Speak again soon. F. Scott Fitzgerald, quote, "The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. One should, for example, be able to see that things are hopeless and yet be determined to make them otherwise. This philosophy fitted on to my early adult life when I saw the improbable, the implausible, often the impossible, come true."
What is our common bond truly? Freedom. Freedom. Without freedom, you can't be a Christian no matter what denomination you belong to. You can't be a Buddhist. You can't own a donut shop. You can't drive from here to Oregon. You can't be an American because that's what it's all about, and it's the only thing that it's all about, nothing else. Nothing else. It's about freedom.